This video is for anyone who is interested in stepping into the fullest expression of your aliveness, of your vitality, of your pleasure. I'm going to be sharing about the 3 pillars that I will be continuing to share on in this channel, which are helping people to embody the fullest expression of your creativity, sexuality, and vitality. In this video, I'll be sharing about how these 3 things are intrinsically connected and tied together, and why they are essential to cultivate if you want to live a life that is fully turned on, where you are sucking the juice out of life, where you get to the end of your life and you say, I did it, I really lived, I really experienced my life. So if that is you, keep watching, and I will share with you how these things are intrinsically connected and tied together, and how you can begin cultivating these things in your life. So, why am I sharing about creativity, sexuality, and vitality? Why am I not just sharing about creativity or just sexuality or just vitality? Well, because it has been my personal investigation of I want to live a life that is fully alive, that is fully turned on. And so how do I do that? Because I came from a place of being completely disconnected, numb, not alive, after experiencing multiple experiences of sexual trauma and violence, after being overprescribed antibiotics as a child and then going through an eating disorder, of being incredibly insecure, being the insecure younger sibling that was scared to really express myself and constantly judging myself and not able to dance freely or sing freely, but I felt this energy inside of me that wanted to express, that wanted to be free. And so personally, it has been my own investigation of how do I break through this? How do I really heal my sexuality? How do I heal my health? How do I really express myself creatively? And as I've gone into these 3 areas of life, I've actually learned how they're all intrinsically connected and tied together, and they all feed each other. And it is really my deepest hope and passion and desire to share everything that has allowed me to radically transform my life with people who are also wanting to do that, who are also wanting to say, no matter what I've been through, no matter what I've experienced, it's possible for me to live a life that is full of pleasure, that is full of vitality, where I feel free to express myself creatively, because that is the life that I have created for myself, and that is what I want to continue to help other people do. So, how are these things tied together? Let's start with sexuality. So, if someone is feeling any kind of block around their sexuality, so any kind of sexual dysfunction, sexual shame, sexual trauma, any kind of blockage where you just don't feel the ability to even feel pleasure or give pleasure, one of the first places to look is actually your vitality and your health. If you're experiencing health challenges, if you're just not feeding yourself well, if you're not eating healthy, if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, if you're using drugs, if you're eating a lot of sugar, that is actually going to directly affect your sexual function. And so one of the first places that I look with people is, what is your vitality? What is the level of health that you're experiencing in your body? And oftentimes, food and how we relate to food is actually tied to our childhood wounds, because many of us use food or alcohol or even drugs to cope with traumas that we've had as a child. And so this goes into deeper emotional wounds. This all affects the function of our sexuality. So one of the first places to look is actually our overall health. And so in terms of when I'm talking about vitality, the health of your vitality, I'm talking about your diet and nutrition, your emotional health, your mental health, because also in terms of our mental health, if we're holding limiting beliefs about sexuality, maybe we've grown up in a religion or a culture that's told us that sexuality is bad or shameful or wrong, those beliefs in our mind actually are going to affect our ability to experience pleasure, because they're actually proving, and they've proved through the embodied psychosexual method that I'm trained in, that our psychology actually does affect our biology. So we have to look at unraveling any kind of mental blockages or beliefs that we have about sexuality. Then any kinds of emotional turmoil that we've experienced, whether that has to do with sexuality or not, that those traumas are holding our life force energy until we understand how to process those things. And then we don't need to use food or alcohol or drugs in a coping mechanism in a way when we've learned to heal the root cause of the emotional pain. So then we can begin to clean up our diet. So once we've cleaned up our diet and we're experiencing more health and vitality in our bodies, then all of a sudden it's a lot easier for us to feel a sense of pleasure and turn on in our body, to turn towards our sexuality and understand how to cultivate our sexuality in a healthy and an embodied way. And so once we are then able to do that and cultivate our sexuality through somatic means, through working with the Taoist sexual cultivation techniques, through understanding how to do shadow work in terms of sexuality, then all of a sudden we can feel more life force energy flowing through us, which then gives us more of that power and that force to have the courage to open up our creativity and our expression, because this is essential for really living a life that is fully alive. Why? Creativity is innate to humanity. We, from the time we are children, we are stacking mud on top of each other. We are making a mud tower. We're turning one object into a different object and making believe that it can fly and soar over the universe. This is innate to humanity, that we are creative. And one of the biggest ways that adults begin to dull their life force, begin to not be happy in life and too stressed out, is that we stop playing, that we stop creating. We start taking life too seriously. So there is an innate impulse in every human to create just for the fun of it. Not because somebody told us to, not because we have to, not because, our job is forcing us to, but because we want to. And when we can open up our creative expression and understand how to step out of the judgments, that the incessant inner voice that criticizes us, that tells us that we're not good enough, that nobody cares, that nobody wants to see it, that you're not creative, that you can't do it, that, blah, 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 blah. Like, how to step out of that and into just the free, playful expression of our creativity. That also boosts our life force energy, that gives us more energy to feel vital and alive. And when we feel vital and alive, it makes it easier to stay on our self-care routines of eating clean, of exercising, doing things that make us feel good. When we're eating clean, when we're exercising, that automatically boosts our libido and our sexuality and our pleasure. And so they all work together like this. And then when we're having good sex, we're feeling sexually vital and alive, then oftentimes people report, after having some kind of sexual experience that feels very fulfilling, a creative idea happens, or they feel a lot of inspiration to express themselves creatively. And then you're expressing your creativity, and then all of a sudden you just are feeling turned on and lit up from the inside, and this sense of vitality is awakened inside of you. So this is why I will be continuing to share on these 3 pillars of sexuality, vitality, and creativity, and how to overcome the blockages within each of these 3 areas, and how to, after you've overcome any kind of blockages or challenge, to step into what does it look like to cultivate health and vitality on all levels, to cultivate your sexual expression on all levels, and to cultivate your creativity on all levels. So this is what I will be continuing to share about on this channel, on this podcast, if you're listening to the podcast. And so a small takeaway that you can home play, that you can play with, is just beginning to journal about, what is my current state of health right now in my body? What is my current state of aliveness? And so one of the good ways that you can begin to assess that for yourself is thinking back to a time when you felt really alive. So this is where, for instance, you felt energy coursing through you. You felt just a vitality in your cells, in your inner being. Maybe you felt joy. So remember that experience. And then what is your current experience in your body of aliveness? What is your level? You can kind of rate yourself. And also do that in terms of your sexuality. Again, thinking about a peak experience of pleasure and connection, both with yourself and then with another person. And what is your current state right now? And then also with your creativity. When was a time that you felt free to be creative, to sing? And how do you feel now? Because in order to actually get to the place where we feel fully expressed and alive in these areas, we have to look at what is our current reality. And that will give us a map to go on. And maybe you've never felt, you can't ever think about an experience where you felt creatively free. Well, then it's a matter of knowing and believing that it is possible. Even if you haven't experienced that, it is possible to experience that. So that's the home play that I would love to share with all of you, is how to just do a journal exercise to reflect. And in the coming months, I'm going to be sharing more targeted tools on these 3 pillars of sexuality, creativity, and vitality, and things like how to kick sugar, things like how to get rid of the inner critic, things like how to overcome sexual shame and trauma, and going more deeply into these 3 specific topics. This is just an overview so that you can kind of understand how these things are tied together and why I'm choosing to speak about these 3 things. I hope that this YouTube, this podcast has given you something that you can take away that will help you to live in a deeper connection with your own body, with yourself, with the essence of who you are, the life force that is in you, that is wanting to express yourself fully. May you continue to gain tools here on this channel that support you in embodying the fullest expression of your aliveness in this life. Thank you so much for tuning in, and wishing so many blessings to you.